Back to you.
Well, we've been looking at the Asian Financial Forum all morning. John Dawson's been our man on the spot there. He's standing by with his next guest. And, John, who do we have?
We have, Richard, the Australian Assistant Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, again joining me now at the AFF Forum. Many thanks, Josh, for joining us. Let's talk about, every guest I've had is, I've got to ask, the big news is the Swiss franc reaction. And of course, you're not part of the euro, you're in Australia. Nevertheless, it did unsettle markets. You've got the ECB coming up this Thursday. Everyone is talking about maybe $600 billion or so in quantitative easing, maybe more. But what's the sort of reaction from Australia, to what happened with the Swiss?
Well, John, it did catch everyone by surprise. And obviously the Swiss can do what they'd like to do, and their currency is appreciated, and they were obviously concerned about the quantitative easing coming out of Europe, but it has been a surprise, and I'm off to Davos from here, and no doubt that will be the topic du jour.
The topic in Australia, for many, is certainly about iron ore prices down 47% last year,
Sure.
The oil price falling a bit more than that, and falling even lower. I mean, clearly iron ore is your biggest export, you're a huge resource-based economy. How worrying is this?
Well, clearly we do benefit a lot from the demand for resources. Nearly 60% of our exports are resources. Iron ore is 1/5 of those exports. We will be the largest LNG producer in the world by 2018. And we also export substantial amounts of wheat and other agricultural products. And wheat's been down 20%, coal's been down 30%, and as you say, iron ore and oil about 50%. This has taken about $32 billion off our projected revenues over the next few years. And that does hurt our balance sheet. But at the same time, petrol prices at the bows are at the lowest level in 4 years, and that is a help to the Australians and their average standard of living. And so there is a twin-edged sword to the falling petrol price, but we are concerned about it.
But for the miners, it's a massive punch to the gut, isn't it?
Sure, and as you know, that will hurt investment in the mining sector, and there's long lag times. But a lot of investment has taken place already in the mining sector in Australia, and we're moving from the investment to the production phase. We're very confident that the terms of trade will recover over time, but it could be a while before we see the high levels for those resource prices that we saw not that long ago.
Now, February the 3rd is the RBA meeting. We've got March the 4th for GDP, May as of budget. Sure. Obviously, you've got the white paper on taxes earlier this year. All these things to look forward to. What can we expect, Josh? I mean, what's the sort of...
Well, Australia is
for the budget particularly.
Sure. Well, we'll continue the fiscal consolidation that we have already underway. We've, through our reforms, reducing government spending by $170 billion over what it would have otherwise been over the next decade, and that's significant. And while our net debt to GDP is not as high as a number of comparable countries, we are very vulnerable to changing terms of trade as well as, a global financial crisis. So we must continue to pay down that debt. At the same time, we're undertaking significant microeconomic reform, particularly around deregulation. We cut about $2 billion a year in red tape over the last 12 months. We're continuing with improving flexibility in our labour markets. We have a massive infrastructure spend, about $125 billion. We will stimulate in new infrastructure over the coming years as a result of government programs and incentives to the private sector to spend. So we're confident the Australian economy will continue to grow. We're in our 24th consecutive year, John, of economic growth.
How strong is the case to increase the sales and foods tax?
We have no plans to increase the GST.
Food, perhaps. Yeah.
Well, we have no plans to increase GST, the rate, or to widen the base. We have a tax white paper. We will look at the overall tax mix in that context. We have a very heavy dependence in Australia on income tax and corporate tax, about the highest dependence in the OECD on income tax as a proportion of overall tax receipts, and just 10 companies are responsible for 1/3 of our company tax receipts. So we have to look at the overall tax mix.
You're off to Davos. I must mention this, that no one knows. You actually used to be a tennis professional. It is the Australian Open, starts today. You beat Mark Philippoussis, but were beaten by Pat Rafter.
That's
I believe
true.
Last week you were playing on the main court with 6,000 strong audience.
Yeah, but my best tennis days are behind me, and John, as you know, my tennis ambitions were far greater than my talents. So I got found out in the end, but I had a great year trying my luck on the satellite circuit and playing internationally, but I love to go to the tennis and see the real champions play.
It must hurt to go to Davos and not be in Melbourne right now.
Yeah, well, going to the cold as opposed to the heat in Australia. But look, we're out selling the positive message about the strength of the Australian economy, inviting further and investment into Australia, and certainly this Asian Financial Forum is a very important opportunity to do just that.
Josh Frydenberg, many thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Josh Frydenberg, the Assistant Treasurer in Australia, joining us here at the Asian Financial Forum. Back to you.